In 1980, or better in 1945, two world wars, World War I and World War II, ended. Germany, unfortunately, was active in parts in both world wars, while Switzerland was not invaded nor attacked and tried to stay neutral. In 1949, this loss of the war leads to a split of Germany to Eastern and Western Germany. In 1955, Western Germany joined the NATO, while Eastern Germany joined the Warsaw Pact. In 1973, both German parts became members of the United Nations. The picture of Europe changed in 1990 with the reunification of Germany. Germany regained full sovereignty on 3rd of October. This was the time of the foundation of the euro, which was fixed in the Maastricht Treaties in 1992. This was the birth of the European Union. In 1995, after several referenda, Switzerland became member of the European Free Trade Agreement. Same in 2002, after several referendums, Switzerland became member of the United Nations. And in 2004, Switzerland participated on Schengen Dublin Agreement, which allows the free movement of goods and people within both regions. Both countries are strongly characterized by its Christian heritage. In Germany, round about 31% of the people are Roman Catholics and 30% are Protestant. 39% are underdenominated. In Switzerland, round about 38% are Catholics, Roman Catholics, and 28% are Protestant Reformed. 21% are underdenominated and 13% are others. Within the borders of the nations Switzerland and Germany, a lot of heterogeneous culture exists. There is neither typical German nor Swiss. In part, the culture differs from village to village. A deep analysis of each culture would break the mold of this presentation. Therefore, I categorized the language areas in Germany and Switzerland into several clusters. For Switzerland, there is the Swiss-French language area in the western part, the Swiss-Italian language area in the southern part, and in some parts of Switzerland, the Romansh language area. In Germany, in the northern parts and northeastern parts, you find the Frisian language area. In the middle, you find the Lower German and the Middle German language area, and in the southeastern parts, you find the Francophonian and the Bavarian language area. For the analysis of hypothesis 1 and 2, the cluster in dialect language area has not been taken into consideration, but for hypothesis 3 and 4, I built my study on the common basis, which is an inherent part in both countries, the Alemannic language area. Historic, cultural, the dialect was already mentioned in the early Middle Ages. This idiom is spoken in variation in 6 countries, in Germany, France, Austria, Liechtenstein, and as well in the German-speaking parts of Switzerland and selectively in parts of northern Italy. The overarching goal of this study is to explore if cultural differences of Germans and Swiss Germans have a negative impact on a common cross-cultural project. Thus, my primary research question is, what are the cultural differences between Swiss Germans and Germans, and to what extent do they have an effect within an international project? Hypothesis 2. 1. There are cultural differences between Germans and Swiss Germans. Cultural differences have certain impact on the success of cross-cultural project. Either these differences complement each other, or at least are initiation of disasters. This leads me to my second hypothesis. The cultural differences between Germans and Swiss Germans have a negative impact on a common cross-cultural project. Cultures are neither homogeneous nor restricted by national borders. Germany and Switzerland share in parts a common culture. For me, it seems to be more interesting if there are differences between the same cultural region because of the national border, or if the national border does not have a big impact. Deducted from my primary research question, I concentrated hypothesis 1 and 2 on the Alemannic cultural region and formulated hypothesis 3 and 4 as follows. There are some cultural differences between Germans and Swiss Germans within the same cultural background, the Alemannic culture, and these have a negative impact on a common cross-cultural project. The examination object in my thesis is the intercultural project of Daimler AG and its Swiss subsidiary Mercedes-Benz in Zurich. I've chosen the single embedded case study because both the German Daimler AG and the Swiss subsidiary provided the necessary conditions to assess culture, to test my hypothesis, and to access to the phenomenon under investigation. This case study is viewed as critical and revelatory. Critical because of the fact that the selected case is present in two cultures where the phenomena under analysis can be observed and a sufficient sample size of respondents is given on both sides. It is also revelatory because such a phenomenon is not being previously investigated from an insider's perspective in a bilateral business project between a Swiss German and a German company. The phenomenon of culture in both companies is investigated at three different levels: sociocultural, business ideological, and individual level. The time frame for the investigation was September 2010 to June 2013, and it was kept as short as possible due to the ongoing project. Further limitation besides the language area and the dialect language area. The dialect area are limitations relating to methodology, resources, and the influence of researchers' subjective point of view. As methodology, I first used observation and interviews, and deducted of this, I created a survey of 12 statements requested on cultural dimension, as I mentioned before, and the survey is split in findings regarding to behavior as is and values as should, same as in the globe study. The scale was referring to the globe in reverse order. First, I want to inform you about the findings of observation and interviews on sociocultural level. Many Swiss Germans are proud of being Swiss. They are also proud of the Swiss direct democracy, census and referendum, and its independency of the European Union. Many Swiss Germans claim to purchase at Swiss supermarkets Migros and Coop. They are also proud of speaking dialect instead of speaking High German. Many Swiss Germans lay things on a line and adhere to it. On the other side, many Germans are familiar with social state, while the concept of Switzerland is based on the willingness of each member to help himself first. Many Germans are more into hierarchical thinking than Swiss Germans. Additionally, fewer Germans are proud of being German, and at the same time it is as if Swabians are proud of being Swabians. The Germans' primary means of transport are their cars, while Swiss Germans prefer velo, bicycle or tram, metro in big cities, or railways. Both countries claim to be a world champion in recycling, and both countries are very strict, rule-based. Fines in Switzerland are more expensive than in Germany. The family policy is mainly excluded in Swiss policies. There are noticeable xenophobia against Germans in Swiss policy and media, and the main impression of Switzerland by Germans is that it is a beautiful landscape and expensive, or an island for tax fraud. Before I come to the findings of the survey, I just want to give you a general overview on the analysis of the findings. The major selection criteria for my survey has been the country and region in which the respondents grew up and the region he is working in. The first criterion is important because the environment of growing up molds a person the most. Second criterion is that the person selected does not work outside his home country, so I extract all respondents grown up in Germany or Switzerland but working abroad. This is important because people who are working in a host country bias the results negatively, mainly because they might be influenced by the host country's culture. The samples are random variables which can be described by the Gaussian distribution. For further analysis, I only use series that are tested positively. I examined the sample size on intercultural level between Germans and Swiss Germans to support or reject hypothesis 1. In case this hypothesis can be supported, I verify hypothesis 2 using the observation I collected in the research field. I test the sample size on intercultural level between Swabians and Swiss Germans to support or reject hypothesis 3. In case this hypothesis can be supported, I verify hypothesis 4. Let's come to the findings of the survey on intercultural level. Therefore, I used the legend of the globe study in reverse order, which means 1 is I totally agree with the statement, up to 7 I totally disagree with the statement. The most significant cultural dimension in behavior are moral discipline, Machiavellism, intercultural teamwork and intercultural support. While the mean of German mostly support the statement in intercultural support, the mean of Swiss Germans only somewhat does. The statement in Machiavellism was neither agreed nor disagreed by the mean of Germans. while the mean of Swiss Germans somewhat disagree with the statement. One reason for the different evaluation might come from the different opinion of hierarchical thinking. The most significant cultural dimension in values are moral discipline, dogmatism, human-heartedness, and intercultural support. I noticed that there are conflicts based on intercultural differences which can pen out negative impact on an intercultural project. According to my observation, there are several verbal misunderstandings between Swiss Germans and German participants in the project due to semantic differences. The survey does not show on which layer the conflicts occur. Therefore, hypothesis 2 can be only supported in parts. On the intracultural level, the most significant cultural dimension in behavior are moral discipline, intolerance of ambiguity, integration, Machiavellism, intercultural teamwork, and intercultural support. The mean Swabians and Swiss Germans have different perception of behavior in their own regional society. The mean of Swabians somewhat agree that the statement that mistakes have been made by a person living within the society are usually tolerated, while the mean of Swiss Germans neither agree nor disagree. For Machiavellism, the mean of Swiss Germans somewhat disagree with the statement that superiors and managers in the project put their self-interest over interest of the group work. The mean of Swabians did not agree nor disagree with this statement. The most significant cultural dimension in values are dogmatism, human-heartedness, and intercultural support. Based on these findings in behavior and value, I verify hypothesis 4. My observation did not show broad hint of positive or negative impact of cultural differences in behavior. Furthermore, there is no scientific literature that examined the impact of intercultural differences between Swabians and Swiss Germans. Therefore, hypothesis 4 can hardly be supported nor rejected by the observation I made. And I hope you learned something from my presentation. If you have any questions, you can always contact us via email. Thank you very much.